The totally unnecessary and horrendous murder of Henry Nowak. Full documentary. This episode about a tragic and horrific murder in the streets of Southampton is basically twofold. Because not only was the crime itself outrageous, but so was the response from the officers who attended to the scene that night. Displaying shocking police conduct, where the killer was shown more care and compassion than the dying victim, Henry Nowak. Even though it was completely evident that Henry needed medical help, he told officers using his dying breaths that he couldn't breathe and had been stabbed multiple times. He said this. And what was one of the officers' response? "I don't think you have, mate." To say I am totally disgusted and utterly outraged at this entire case and the bodycam footage is a major understatement. And how police chose to conduct themselves that night, allowing Henry to die next to his killer, is just beyond me. Warning: this episode is incredibly distressing and includes disturbing bodycam footage. Viewer discretion is advised. Also, certainly expect bad language. My heart, soul, and deepest condolences go out to all of Henry Nowak's loved ones, not only having to deal with the needless and violent death of their innocent Henry, but also having to cope with how he was treated by officers, in complete contrast to his callous killer, in his dying moments. I do not profit from any of my content. This is purely a passion of mine. Each case runs deeply for me, and are all to bring awareness to the evil in this world, the cruelty and complete injustices. Henry Nowak, described as amazing in every way by his loving father, a bright, kind, and incredibly intelligent young man, with his entire life and future ahead of him, torn apart by both a hideous, lying, cowardly murderer, and in how he was treated by officers in his dying moments. Henry was just 18 years old when his life was so cruelly taken, a British-Polish student in his very first year of studying accountancy at the University of Southampton. Boasting 7 campuses, which feature the National Oceanography Centre, Winchester School of Art, the University Hospital Southampton, and much more. It supplies the brightest and most aspirational of people with a promising and hopeful future. Just imagine what Henry could have gone on to achieve and accomplish, the goals he could have met, what he could have gone on to be. Everything, all of that, his hopes and dreams, so cruelly and viciously taken away from him and all of his loved ones. Immensely proud of their loving, caring, bright son, brother, and so much more. They had that chance of seeing what Henry could have achieved in life, and who he would have gone on to be, also ripped away from them, broken forever. From what I can find, as I always try to research extensively for every case, but of course mistakes are made, but I do believe that Henry grew up in a place called Chafford Hundred, in the borough of Thurrock in Essex, here in England. A sweet young boy with so much promise and a family who truly adored him. A young man clearly worked hard and did well for himself, being a part of Southampton University. His life was just beginning. Loved dearly by so many people, Henry's loss is not just felt throughout his family and friends, but the entirety of Great Britain, and no doubt other countries that this horrific crime has also reached to. And also, what happened that night brings into question many issues that we have here in the UK. 1. The serious issue of knife crime on our streets. And 2. Just how scared even our police are to ever be called out as racist. To the point that they choose to believe the word of an uninjured subject, i.e. the killer, over a clearly attacked, injured, dying white man. And yes, the killer is not white. And no, I am not racist. My best friend all through school is Pakistani, her brother was also my brother's best friend, and I dated a Bangladeshi for 4 years. So no, I have no issues at all personally with anyone of a different colour or race, religion to myself. But I am making this episode to highlight just how deep and problematic this is. We, as British citizens, are so afraid to speak out or even be believed in our own country that situations like this end up happening. Scared to be called a racist or siding with the white man or woman, that a comment about a racial insult meant more to the responding officers that night than an 18-year-old clearly dying white man's life did. The claim of a racial attack was taken more seriously than a person who could barely talk, claimed he was stabbed continuously and how he couldn't breathe, before dying at the feet of the responding officers, his killer and his killer's family, and worst of all, in fucking handcuffs. Yep, they handcuffed him in his dying moments because they believed the word of a racial attack over the importance of Henry's life. Even if it were true, you deal with that later, don't you? I mean, come on, save the guy that's been stabbed, or at least try and figure out where. He was in no threat at all to those officers. The killer's father or brother was even holding Henry up. I mean, even he showed Henry more care and compassion and empathy than those officers did. I know, obviously, he didn't call and, they didn't get him help and stuff, but he's holding him up. The killer's family, what does that say? More than the officers did. Oh, and I bet they wish more than anything that their body cams were not filming that night. But unfortunately for them, they were. And along with demands from Henry Nowak's loved ones and many others across the UK, the police footage has actually been released. Well, part of it. Now I will show you this, but I just wanted to give Henry's name and respect rather than just jumping straight into the footage. Also, another major warning to everyone, as this bodycam has been described by many people as the most distressing footage that they have ever seen. So please, think now if you actually want to watch it in full with the audio. Otherwise, skip to the time on the screen now, as I will only play it in full and in its entirety once.
My dad's just holding it now. Right. He keeps dropping side to side, so I'm just trying to keep him set up.
Right.
He's got a mouthful of blood, I don't want him...
He was on the bin on the other side of this gate.
He's jumped over these fences and stuff like that. And he's up here.
Away, mate.
He's obviously... He's fallen from there and he slipped from there.
There's other shoes left over there, mate.
What's your name, mate? Huh? Has anyone been hurt other than him?
Yeah, me. He's grabbed my brother, he's took my turban off, started grabbing my head.
Are you injured?
Yeah, I've got swollen eye, little bruises.
Alright, just step back a little bit for me. Someone flag these down.
Got this stud.
Right, let's get you out of there, shall we?
I was in bed asleep. Whenever we just find me up there, look, someone's attacked me. I can't breathe.
Grab his other arm.
Help. So I've just come running, we only live on St Denny's Road. I've come running around the corner.
What's happened to you, alright?
Been stabbed.
You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? I don't think you have, mate.
That's what, and then you've got mouthful of, I want to keep you up.
Hand?
I can't breathe.
Put the hand in the cuff, mate.
Yeah. This is like numerous times this has happened to us. We've been walking, we can't literally
Can we get a van
multiple times we've had people racistly attacked, still nothing happened.
He's saying he's been stabbed, so
Where
let's
is it
just
you
check
think you've
him.
been stabbed?
He hasn't been.
In the face? Oh no, but we have to check, don't we?
No.
In the face?
Just get these back off, get their details and that, and I'll keep hold of him.
Should we...
Right, keep you on your side, mate. You better retrieve then.
Say again.
Saying to him, keeping him on his side. We were sat up when we had him here, but he didn't like it. What's your name, mate? At the moment you are under arrest, that's for assault, so you do not have to say anything, may harm in defence if you do not mention when questioned. It's up to which you later rely in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence, alright? It's going to be sick, I think.
What's his name?
So I just want you to call it.
Yeah, we've got this male, he's
just-
been beat up. Are we able to get an ambulance, please? His pupils aren't even reacting.
Wow, now that was a lot. And I know what many of you may be thinking right now. The whole George Floyd BLM movement, which literally took over the world. Streets were burnt down, even here in the UK where it didn't happen. Monuments set up, protests upon protests. We had Keir Starmer taking the knee and other higher-ups. TV platforms like Netflix, with list after list for BLM specials and features and playlists. And yes, it was indeed horrific. But George Floyd had a major criminal history, including things like theft, drug offences and aggravated robbery, where I believe he threatened a pregnant woman with a knife in a home invasion. Yet still, his face was painted across many buildings, sculptures of his face erupted, many people cried for him and fought for the injustice by police, and that includes here in Britain, where it didn't even take place. I wonder how that made his victims feel, genuinely. Also, I'm interested to see how long it takes, if ever, before we see Henry Nowak's name and face on the walls and buildings in Britain. When will sculptures be made in honour of his good name? An innocent 18-year-old with no criminal history, so much promise and love for many. Yes, Black Lives Matter, but also White Lives Matter too. All lives matter. And at this point, no, I'm not afraid to share this in my video, this picture right here. As all lives matter, except for those of evil killers, rapists, nonces, etc. Terrible people, like Vickrum Digwa. Pretty sure that's the first time I've mentioned the scum's name. I don't even want to, but of course, we must. I will use others too, like monster and coward. But yeah, that is the killer's name. But this is the point. This movement has totally taken over. Our country as a whole is afraid to speak out, even when thousands and thousands of us feel it. It's gone too far. Any person of any colour, religion, creed, whatever, can be evil. This is not a case of religion, faith, culture or race, but of murder and a family involved in covering it up. Plus the completely deplorable manner in how the police conducted themselves that night. Utter incompetency. But it doesn't take away the fact that we have a serious issue in our country, and this bodycam sums that up. Can you believe that one officer's response, though, to Henry claiming that he had been stabbed? I don't think you have, mate. Just imagine being told that by police, the ones who you think are coming to save you, when you know for a fact you have been stabbed and you cannot breathe, you're dying and no one there believes you. But you can hear your killer and his family being listened to and checked on and believed in the background. Utterly horrendous, it really is. Even as the officer arrives on scene whose body cam we see, his first response is a really large sigh. And how he speaks like he just couldn't give a fuck what is going on. It just isn't a good start. Or, he just can't be arsed to deal with it. Either way, not good. He's told that a man's dad is holding Henry up. He doesn't even use words here, the officer. Just kind of groans in response.
My dad's just holding it now.
Weird. The officer is then told by this man he is holding Henry up as he keeps dropping from side to side. He just says, alright.
He keeps dropping side to side, so I'm just trying to keep him set up.
Alright.
He's got a mouthful of blood, I don't want him...
I can't breathe.
He was on the bin on the other side of this gate.
He's jumped over these fences and stuff like that.
Not, what's happened? Is he okay? Is he injured? Normal police responses to such a scene. It's even said Henry had been stabbed to the face, so this should have been utterly evident straight away to the officers, with torches in hand. Right? You'd think so. The police have a duty of care for everyone. Does it look like they cared? He didn't even believe he was stabbed. Fucking disgusting. Disgraceful to see. I'm also sure the man holding him up, which I think is the father, mentions how he's got a lot of blood. It is hard to tell with cross chatter, but I'm pretty sure. The officer then gets the man who initially seemed to be helping poor Henry to just release and drop him onto the cold gravel floor in between the car and the wall. As he stood over him requesting to know his name, still doesn't ask him if he's injured or okay, or even listening to the fact he's telling him he isn't. Henry can barely respond as he's fucking dying over here. And the policeman, he just goes, or something like that. Just a noise rather than, sorry, what did you say? He just, ugh. And then he turns to the others to check if anyone else was injured with these words. Has anyone been hurt other than him?
Has anyone been hurt other than him?
To me, that says this officer indeed is aware that Henry is injured. Just doesn't seem to care much. They're lucky their faces are blurred out, that's for sure. Well, when I wrote this, no one knew what they looked like. But social media is definitely doing its rounds with the pictures. The officer then listens to the killer's account and pathetic attempt to show injuries, if any. Most probably defensive ones from Henry fighting for his life against a knife-wielding attacker. He asks again if anyone else was injured. Henry is dying right there. Henry then says, I've been stabbed, as the officer chooses to crudely pull and drag his limp body across the gravel floor. No respect, empathy or care given. And not seeming to take into consideration how injured he could be or what further damage this could cause to him. Henry continues to cry out that he had been stabbed, that he couldn't breathe, and even coughs with a sound that just isn't normal, like he's choking on something. Evident he needs help. He then also requests an ambulance at least twice, while still coughing in agony to do so. The officer says, "What's happened to you, mate?" Rather than complying with Henry's rightful human request for an ambulance, he relays again and again, "I've been stabbed." I mean, is this officer totally deaf, dumb, or both? Perhaps just ignorant and incompetent. or all of the above. Just awful to witness. The officer then says, "Whereabouts?" And then, "I don't think you have, mate." How vile is that? Plus, that's like the kind of comment you make to Jay off in-betweeners when he makes some outrageous claims like being best friends with professional footballers. Not to a man who lies injured, dying, crying out for an ambulance, barely able to talk through coughing, and persistently claiming he's been stabbed, and cannot breathe. Absolutely horrific to watch, isn't it? But, as Henry's family felt, completely necessary to see. As seeing is believing, as the saying goes. The officers then work together to arrest this victim, who poses absolutely no threat at all, and says he is the one injured. Stabbed 5 times at least, by the way. Crazy. Just because you can't see the blood, I mean, he's wearing layers upon layers of clothes. It's winter. As he once again cries out, "I can't breathe," he continues to do so as they put the handcuffs on him and leave him lying on his side. The killer or his family is then heard in the background, claiming that he wasn't stabbed at all, but the policewoman said that they have to check. Oh, well done. Henry pleads again to them, "Please, brother, I can't breathe." Oh, even in his dying, agonising moments, Henry was polite to the officers. He was desperate, and no one there even listened or believed him. Before, it was just too late. And still, I have not heard of a call for medical. He's begging for his life to be saved here. Heart-wrenching. We then hear the bodycam officer in question remark to a fellow officer on scene how Henry was sitting up when they arrived, but he didn't like it.
We were sat up when we had him here, but he didn't like it. What's your name, mate?
What kind of comment is that? And actually, the position he was held up and into at that point may have been the only thing keeping him alive, as sadly, Henry died choking on his own blood from deep stab wounds, which is probably the coughing sound that we heard as he tried his very best to communicate. So incredibly heartbreaking. Just an agonising way to die. And as he lay dying, Henry was asked for his name again, which at this point, why the hell does it matter? Call for medical, you dimwit. Before Henry is then informed, he is now placed under arrest for assault. Wow. Just how crazy is that? No evidence he ever committed any assault, yet it couldn't be more obvious that he himself had in fact been assaulted and stabbed, as he claimed, again and again and again. Henry doesn't respond now, his body limp and lifeless. As the bodycam bloke says, he thinks he's gonna be sick. We finally hear a female officer state how they should probably get an ambulance. Duh, you think so?
How stupid is she?
For some reason, our main officer wants the female to call it in. Bit strange? Well, why would that be?
I just want you to call it.
Yeah, we've got this male. He's
Just-
been beat up. Are we able to get an ambulance, please?
His pupils aren't even reacting.
And as she does, she says this. Yeah, we've got this male. He's been beat up. Think she means beaten up, but whatever. This shows that she could visually see that Henry had been attacked. Yet he's the one in cuffs. Please explain that. She then says, "Are we able to get an ambulance, please?" Not, "We need an ambulance ASAP. He's not even reacting to me speaking now." Or speaking. Oh, God. She then says, "His pupils aren't even reacting," before the footage abruptly ends. It will be interesting to see if we ever get to view any more. That's highly doubtful, as Henry never even made it to the hospital. He died right there, with his murderer and his family nearby, on the cold floor, unlistened to, not believed, and still wearing handcuffs, as if he were the criminal. The bodycam ends at 11:40 p.m, and Henry's time of death was listed as 12:37 a.m, but it seems he may have actually died before the footage cut out, as he and his pupils were completely unresponsive at that point. Apparently, the Hampshire Police Deputy Chief Constable, Robert France, said that within 3 minutes of interacting with Henry, the officers were starting to perform CPR. Well, in that body cam, which lasted literally 3 minutes, we saw no attempts, and the 3-minute claim seems quite fortunate and coincidental, don't you think? But we don't see any more, so we cannot say one way or another if this was true or not. But what is facts is that Henry died on the streets of Southampton, believed to be a criminal, from one baseless claim, and not given the care, consideration or compassion that we as British citizens expect from our police force, especially in our dying moments, and after being brutally attacked. Bad policing, actions and conduct such as this highlights the issues in our country. Why was Henry not believed? Because he was white? Why was Vickrum believed, not questioned, cuffed, or treated like the killer criminal that he is? Because he isn't white? That is the question. As the disgusting conduct continued, at no point does it appear that Vickrum Digwa was ever placed into handcuffs or treated as a criminal, the criminal he was. It's even been stated by Henry's father himself that Vickrum was actually escorted around a kitchen by police to choose what he wanted to eat, which he boasted about later. Imagine how deep that cuts all of his loved ones. Talking of, Henry suffered various stab wounds, including both of his legs and the fatal wound to his heart, which he bled and choked to death from. Oh gosh. This blade was 21 centimetres or over 8 inches long, and it was not an official religious blade carried as part of his faith like Vickrum claimed, nor was it a kirpan, as he stated, which is actually legal and has a clear exemption for religious purposes to carry. Meaning, here in England, if you are a Sikh, you are legally allowed to walk our streets, be on our public transport, around our children and elderly, etc., even aeroplanes apparently, with a 15 to 30 centimetre or 6 to 12 inch blade strapped to your body, which I personally find quite unreal. Although a murder with this weapon has not occurred in decades in England, but it's right there amongst the public, also hidden underneath clothing the majority of the time. Do you think that's right? And there have been other murders and assaults committed with a religious kirpan across the world, and since Henry's horrific death, committed with that blade or a similar weapon under the guise of a religious carry. If this is acceptable here in England is the major question being asked right now.
Sikhs have a religious exemption from weapons carrying laws to allow followers of the faith to carry the kirpan. The College of Policing defines a kirpan as a dagger-type blade. In Britain, there's no restriction on its size. Nowak's murder has given rise to calls for a ban on the kirpan, though defenders of the right to carry the blade say there have been no recorded instances of a kirpan being used in a killing or attack in Britain since the legal exemption was introduced back in 1988. Other countries with similar legal systems to Britain have attempted to ban or restrict the carrying of the kirpan to no avail, with equality and religious freedom laws standing in their way. In Australia, the New South Wales government temporarily banned the blade in 2021 after it was used to stab a 16-year-old at a school in Sydney. The New South Wales Premier said this at the time.
I was quite taken aback to learn that students can take knives to schools. My strong view is that no student should be allowed to take a weapon to school, full stop. The ban was implemented in May 2021, but by the September the New South Wales government had lifted it and permitted Sikh children to carry the kirpan to school, though with restrictions, like being secured and worn under clothes or removed for playing sports. In 2006, the Canadian Supreme Court ruled a school had discriminated against a Sikh pupil for banning him from wearing his own kirpan. In 2010, Sikh lawyer Manjit Mangat was stabbed with a kirpan in Brampton, a suburb of Toronto, Canada. Employers who tried to ban the article from their premises in the United States have been consistently blocked by the courts. Those who have been arrested in America for carrying it have had their charges dropped, citing religious freedoms. Britain and Canada allow the kirpan to be worn on domestic flights, though in the US they are limited by size. International flights typically ban it from the cabin.
I mean, this is clearly a deadly weapon, so all we need is one nutjob using religion as an excuse to carry it, to go out and commit bloody murder, and this needs to stop. And perhaps a ban does need to be put in place. What do you think? Let me know in the comments your thoughts and feelings on this. This is England, and many of us feel if you do want to be a part of this country, live off our land, etc., and integrate, you should also be obliged to follow our strict laws on knife carrying, which should include all weapons, even religious artefacts perhaps. In your own home, maybe different, I don't know, but in public, I feel it is just totally unacceptable and downright terrifying. The Sikh community as a whole is really peaceful, and, many of us integrate well together. But, as I said, you just need one nut job who's already carrying this weapon to lose it. I was completely unaware of this even being a thing until I heard of an attack not long ago, and whether they should be allowed in schools and worn by teachers and students was brought into question. Wow. Perhaps Australia, I can't quite remember now. But I was left jaw-dropped, to be honest, with you all. And here in England, like the streets aren't already unsafe and terrifying enough, hey? To be honest, I seriously do hope a new ban or law is brought in to prohibit carrying these weapons. And I also feel Henry's law would be ideal. That way, at least his horrific death shall stand for something so incredibly important. To protect our citizens, our public and streets, and treat everyone as innocent until proven guilty. And where one's colour does not matter, a dying man should always be listened to. Yeah, I'm saying it. This ridiculous two-tier policing, woke as a joke country is an embarrassment to be a part of, and has been for a long time now. I wish it was simple enough for me to just leave, as I would gladly fuck right off. I'm ashamed to be British, as many of us are left feeling. Yes, this is about murder, as I stated. Any race, colour, religion can be a killer. Many white men and women commit murder every day. But unfortunately, in this case, race certainly seems to be a huge factor. At least to this one officer. Why else was Vickrum treated as a victim rather than the killer that he is? Why was the beaten and stabbed-looking white guy arrested, not listened to, just blatantly straight up ignored, and even handcuffed and left to die? You tell me. Now, let's just take a listen to the 999 call placed to police by Vickrum's brother, Vickrum Digwa. And by the way, it wasn't the only 999 call. Neighbours also rang telling police how a man was yelling that he had been stabbed and was dying in the street. Now, you would think that this would be relayed to the responding officers, right? A man stabbed and dying at the exact same address? Let's take a listen and hear how he describes Henry. Never mentions how he has been stabbed, but highlights the racial abuse instead. And since I've actually wrote this, I've found an extended version of the call, so we're going to listen to that in its entirety. I can't say that word. Entirety now.
Police emergency.
Yeah, we just been attacked by someone racially. Yeah, this.
Right.
He just attacked it, took us to start off. Sorry? Huh? Sorry, we just got attacked racially by some white person.
Right, okay. Whereabouts are you?
We're on Belmont Road.
Just out in the street, are you?
Sorry?
You just in the street?
Yeah, literally, I just parked up my car to come home and he's attacked my brother.
Are you talking about verbally or physically?
No, he physically attacked my brother. We're Sikhs, we wear turban and he's just attacked my brother.
Have any weapons been involved?
No.
Okay,
Leave him 1 second. I'm calling the police. Leave him. We'll restrain him, please. What did he say to you?
Oh, who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, look, bro, you're drunk, carry on, walk on. Then I was there, he goes, oh, who do you think I'm a bad man? I was like, bro, look, I'm a bad man. I'm speaking to you.
Gopri, what did he say? Was he racially abusive?
The police need a report, come here. Yeah, he was. So basically, he stumbled into my brother.
Yeah.
So do you want to speak to my brother?
No, you carry on. He stumbled into him, and then what did he do?
Okay. So he stumbled into you, and then what?
Yeah, so he's walked into me and stumbled. He's drunk. I've clearly said to him, look, mate, you're drunk. Carry on about your day. Do what you need to do.
And then what?
Then he goes to me, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are?
He goes, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to my brother? And then what?
And then he goes, oh, you're this, you're that. Who do you think you're a bad man? I was like, yeah, I'm a bad man. What? Then he starts recording me.
Right.
As he's recording me, I snatched his phone. He's then laid a punch onto me. He's pushed me back and my turban's come off. He started then grabbing my head. So I then grabbed him and then he started pushing me, attacking me even further and everything like that.
At the minute now he's lying on the floor. He was trying to get away. He jumped over some bins and stuff on the other neighbour side. He jumped over the bins and tried to leave through the bin way. He's left a shoe here as well.
So he doesn't have any injuries?
He's hurt his face. I think he's fallen because when he tried to climb over the bin, he's fallen from the one side of the bins over the gates to the other side.
I think he needs medical attention.
Does he need medical attention, you reckon? He will, yeah, I believe, yeah.
Just to confirm, no one's seen any weapons?
No. I don't know what weapons it would be. This is my car key, yeah? Okay.
So, as you heard, Vickrum's brother claimed that they had been attacked racially. Then a word is bleeped out when he describes Henry. So probably some sort of swear word, an insult towards Henry that they felt needed cutting out. Wonder what that was. The male claims again how they were racially attacked by some white man. No mention of the so-called white man being attacked and stabbed himself, even though his cries were loud enough to be heard by the neighbours. And he needed holding up, as we saw. This man on the call, his brother, Gurpreet, then says again how his brother was attacked as Henry lay dying feet away. But as I said, there was a separate call to 999 that was placed by those neighbours too, informing them that a male lay crying out at the same address as the racial attack, shouting that he had been stabbed. But of course, a turban being pulled off, maybe, or a racial slur, are to be taken much more serious than a clearly dying white man. 2-tier, oh dear. Henry Nowak was just out having a good time with his football team that night. CCTV footage first of all showed him leaving his accommodation, drink in hand, dressed smartly and carrying perhaps a bottle of champagne, checking that he looked okay and his hair was done. Any old evening, so he thought. No idea that this night would be his last on this earth. Just entering the lift, checking he was dressed okay and his hair was alright. Just knowing what is going to happen to him. So incredibly sad. He was also seen shopping at his local shops, mooching around, having a conversation, just being his genuinely social, bright self. Just a happy, healthy 18-year-old, living out any normal day with his buddies. Before heading off for a few drinks at his local pub, called the Hobbit Pub. Located in Belvoir Valley, Southampton, Hampshire. A popular Tolkien-inspired fantasy-themed venue, known for its large beer garden and live music. Henry seemed happy enough and was seen conversing with security staff at the door. He had a few drinks, but could clearly stand and walk no problems. His toxicology report also showed he was under the drink-drive limit. Henry then left the Hobbit Pub and began walking home alone and started to film himself, obviously in good spirits, as he says, "Hello, car." Just any normal 18-year-old enjoying his evening. He is then heard yawning, probably just ready for his bed at this stage. But at some point, Henry Nowak ended up crossing paths with his killer, Vickrum Digwa. Henry began filming him, probably just casually at first, being slightly intoxicated and merry. Originally, Vickrum walked away from Henry, but with Henry being in a state of tiddliness, he was just rambling on. I mean, he literally just said hello to a car. But he starts then supposedly saying things like, "In it, bad man," or "What a bad man. You're a bad man? Say you're a bad man, go on." To which Vickrum, apparently, still walking away, replied to Henry with, "I am a bad man." It is said that Henry then stated that Vickrum was a bitch before that Snapchat video footage ended. He was obviously just a bit drunk and talking rubbish, as many people do. But for some unknown reason, these silly little comments that most people would just brush off as some, drunk guy talking shit, instead made the killer snap. He then stabbed Henry, not with his legal Sikh kirpan, but with an 8-inch straight pointed narrow blade, which embedded deep into his heart, and subsequently killed Henry, along with various other stab wounds to his entire body. A blood trail showed where Henry had travelled, trying to escape his killer. As his brother explained in that call, he wasn't trying to escape getting in trouble, he was trying to get away from his killer. Climbing over a bin and a fence in pure desperation. Bless him. So how did officers not notice this? As I said, they had torches. Vickrum then used Henry's own phone to film him as he was dying and trying to flee. 2 videos that he made, both were cited as aggravating factors later in his sentencing. The callous killer then even contacted his parents, who arrived on scene before the police, and Vickrum's own mother, Kiran Kaur, then decided to aid and abet her murdering son by taking away the very weapon used in the brutal killing and hid it in her home residence. Like they wouldn't check there. Is everyone thick in this case?
How stupid is she?
She also faced charges I will get to soon. Now, I'm unsure when this occurred, but at some point police allowed Vickrum to meet with his brother, where they shared a covertly recorded conversation in Punjabi. I think it was perhaps in the police car on the way to the jail. Like they couldn't translate Punjabi. So yes, I guess everyone is just thick as fuck. Vickrum's brother is heard advising him to claim self-defence, but he replied how he would not be able to claim self-defence if there were security cameras on the street. A very damning statement from the killer himself there, implicating him in this murder. As I said before, Henry Nowak's life ended right there, in the street, without any of his loved ones by his side, but instead the killer himself and his family. No hospital or immediate first aid, just tragic and outrageous. It's said that either way, Henry would not have survived the extensive internal bleeding from the deep knife wound, but that's not the point. And come on, he wasn't even helped, especially by the officers. If anything, what they did or didn't do, and how they treated him and his body, probably actually aided in his death happening sooner, with the blood drowning him from inside. Ugh, how totally horrific. And to be told, in your dying breaths, I don't think you have, mate. Enraging, to say the least.
Been stabbed. You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? Don't think you have, mate.
That's what. And then you've got nothing. I'm going to keep you up.
Hand.
I can't breathe.
Put the hand in the cuff, mate.
This is like
At the moment you are under arrest, and that's for assault, so you do not have to say anything, may harm in defence if you do not mention when questioned. Something to which you later rely in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence, alright?
All Henry wanted and intended to do that night was return safely home to his university accommodation in Portswood. But whilst he walked down Belmont Road, a chance meeting and horrifying encounter with 22-year-old Vickrum Digwa occurred, ending in utter horror for Henry and all of his loved ones. Henry may have been a little cheeky in his comments and questions that night, but absolutely nothing he did warranted such a violent response, with a weapon that should never be drawn or used for evil, like Vickrum did that winter's evening. On the recording, Henry's tone of voice is described as not aggressive or threatening, just more of a joking manner. Yet Vickrum claimed he was racially attacked. It said Henry made the comments after visually seeing Vickrum's weapons, but this is not facts about him being a bad man because of seeing the weapons, Seeing such huge knives on anyone in public would be a shock to most of the British citizens. They should always be carried under clothes and/or always sheathed, and certainly not used for bad intentions. They are sacred religious weapons, as they're called. Vickrum then chose to steal Henry's phone away from him, so it's not a surprise that a struggle then ensued, and even if his turban could have been knocked off, or his hair even grabbed, perhaps during the attack itself, Henry was being stabbed to death for fuck's sake. I would expect signs of a struggle, some kind of injuries on Vickrum, and defensive wounds. The removal of a male Sikh's turban is seen or considered as a mark of disrespect. But I highly doubt, and there is no evidence to show, that this was a malicious move by Henry. If it did occur, it was probably during a struggle, Henry trying to get his phone, his property back, or during the murder itself. Either way, this seemed to enrage Vickrum even more, probably being filmed too. He was having none of it that night, clearly. And knowing the state of our country at the minute, the idea of a racial attack, they all just jumped on it. Even using Henry's own phone to film him struggling to get away, stabbed, bleeding and dying, a complete and purposeful sign of utter disrespect, callous rage and evil motives and thoughts. Like who does that? A sadistic, depraved monster and killer, that's who. A coward who chose to use his sacred religious artifact for pure evil, aka his chosen murder weapon. That he used to stab Henry 5 times, and that his Indian citizen mother hid from officers trying to cover up a murder that her own son committed. Oh well, she needs reporting back to India then. Our prisons are full enough. Send her back and let them deal with her how they wish. Who agrees? The stab wound to Henry's chest, the fatal injury to his heart, a deliberate act of violence, went in at a depth of 8 centimetres. Wow, from the skin's surface. It passed upwards through soft tissue, between the 2 uppermost ribs, catching along his lungs in the process, and tragically cutting and slicing into a crucial vein situated behind the collarbone, and the subsequent and major blood loss internally flowed into his chest cavity, flooding him with his own blood. What a truly horrifying and gruesome way to die. The pathologist, Amanda Jeffrey, found 1,200 millilitres, over 2 pints of blood in his chest. How heartbreaking. Just one thrusting motion of a so-called religious knife, and an innocent man's life is stolen from him. He was choking on his own blood whilst begging officers for help, whilst they instead just checked Vickrum and his family for injuries, before placing the dying man under arrest. Totally unnecessarily, and I do reckon that this aided towards his death occurring much quicker than it may have. Other injuries included 2 stab wounds to the upper leg and in the lower abdomen groin area at the front. Even Henry's face displayed a slash by the blade of the dagger used. So how do officers explain this? Why did they not ask how he was attacked and who by? Where is the weapon that was used in this attack on him? Why it even happened? Nothing. Terrible protocol and procedure that night. Just utter incompetence. It was said at least one of the wounds Henry sustained left him completely defenceless to further serious and deadly injuries, as he was unable to put his hands up to defend himself. Tragic. Vickrum filmed Henry and continued to do so when his brother Gurpreet arrived just after the attack had finished. Vickrum lied to his brother, falsely accusing Henry of attacking him instead. Gurpreet then placed the idea of racism being involved in Vickrum's mind by asking him if it was accompanied with racism, to which the killer fed right into, knowing full well the state of our country and how serious anything racial is taken here. He used this to his advantage. But no evidence, no video footage, nothing ever showed Henry being racist in any way. And that was just not his character or in his nature to do so. And I'm sorry, but from the bodycam we have, to me, out of everyone on scene that night, the only person to show dying Henry Nowak any care and compassion was the actual killer's own father, Moga Singh. I'm not saying he was trying to save Henry, but compared to the officers, come on. He at least tried to hold Henry up and informed the officers about his state. Little effect that had, as the officer just told him to drop Henry to the ground and helped himself in no way at all. Disgusting conduct. The officer's duty is literally to care for our public. His job. That's why the contrast between the father to the officer is just wow to me. Vickrum hid Henry's phone from officers with that damning and crucial video footage, incriminating Vickrum in this callous murder, documented on Henry's very own phone. And this phone was only located later in custody when the killer was finally searched. When interviewed by police about the incident, Vickrum did the classically British thing and answered no comment throughout, instead supplying a written statement on the 7th of December 2025, 4 days following the brutal murder. What a fucking coward. Once proceedings began, he even supplied yet another statement where he was said to develop and modify his lies even further. And only when he gave evidence in court did he put forward his full defence. His mother was also held in custody for months for her part in aiding her son, when he requested to remove the dagger, which he called a shastar, not sure how you say that, to his mother, which actually translates to traditional or sacred weapon. Him talking about this is said to be heard on the background of that 999 call, and I did put that on the screen. Vickrum remained a cowardly and totally remorseless killer to the very end. At Southampton Crown Court, he chose to plead not guilty to murder, manslaughter, or even carrying a knife in public. His mother, 53-year-old Kiran Kaur, also pled not guilty to assisting an offender by removing the weapon from the scene. She is still due to be sentenced as I write this. I think it's July. When asked in court why he had not informed officers that he had in fact stabbed Henry, Vickrum answered, "I was scared because it was the first time anything like this had happened." No excuse, pal. He stated how he acted in self-defence, which he was only ever proven to be the violent aggressor throughout. Just an evil coward. Defence barristers told the jury they had to consider whether Vickrum had acted in the heat of the moment. What? Like killing an innocent, perhaps just drunk guy on his way home for calling you a bad man? Come on. Totally unjustified in every sense of the word. What a stupid statement. He had absolutely no right to even unsheath any of his weapons, never mind use them against a totally defenceless, unarmed man who just said a few hurty words. And certainly no right to take Henry's life that night. In contrast to the kirpan, which is a part of the 5 articles of faith for practising Sikhs, and are required to be worn as part of their religious uniform, yes, even here in England, actually described as the Sikh Code of Conduct, whereas the actual murder weapon, a large Sikh dagger, was certainly not a part or worn as a sign of the membership of Niang order at all. There was absolutely no valid reason for him even walking the streets with such a weapon that night. He is also seen here with his religious weapon, just open to see, with his colleagues at work in the building. How would you feel having a colleague wearing a weapon such as this? You know, don't want to piss him off, he's walking around with a dagger. Quite contentious, I know. In court, the heartbreaking and confronting police bodycam was shown to the jury and Henry's already traumatised and heartbroken family, displaying exactly what happened and how their beloved son was treated in his dying moments. His father described the contrast of how his son was treated compared to the killer as unbearable, and the treatment by police at the scene itself as inhumane and degrading. I totally agree. After hearing and seeing all evidence and footage in the case, on the 27th of May 2026, the jury retired to consider their verdict. On the 28th of May, they rejected the claims by Vickrum of self-defence, and instead they chose to find him guilty of murder, and his mother guilty of assisting an offender. On June the 1st, 2026, Vickrum was sentenced to a life sentence and a minimum of 21 years. What a woke of a joke that is. Yes, everyone, 21 years is classed as life. Welcome to the British justice system, everybody. And can you believe that the killer's age of 22 at the time was told to be taken into consideration at sentencing? Like, what does that matter? He wasn't a child. He's a fully grown man. Plus, the fact he had no previous convictions against his name was told to be considered. Like that means anything when he chose to kill an innocent, unarmed man with his religious weapon. Just pathetic and ridiculous, isn't it? 175 days was also taken off his sentence, of which he'd already spent in custody, which I've always found a joke. And his so-called good character was mentioned too. Oh, can you imagine how the family and loved ones felt hearing this bullshit? Judge William Morsley Casey said that Vickrum Digwa had brought shame on his family and other Sikhs and caused racial tension, saying how he abused the privilege extended to Sikhs to have a knife in a public place for religious reasons, dishonoured your religion and have now put others at risk of repercussions. The fact that mental suffering was inflicted upon Henry in his dying moments by the murderer's attitude and degradation by filming Henry's suffering was highlighted in the judge's closing words. The judge stated how Vickrum Digwa murdered Henry Nowak. By doing so, he robbed him of all of those who loved him, all the things he cared about and liked to do. He would have been expected to live a long, hopefully happy and fulfilling life. Vickrum has brought misery and a lifetime of loss upon Henry's family, and great sadness to everyone who knew him. Henry was careful, principled, full of humour, warmth and promise. His entire family left completely traumatised by the whole horrific event and all involved. His heartbroken father even had to make the awful identification of his deceased son, the lasting torment of imagining his son's final moments. His father describes his overwhelming grief, guilt, helplessness, and the pain of seeing Henry's mother, siblings, and wider family broken by the loss. Mr. Nowak explained how the family itself has effectively been given a life sentence, with the pain affecting every aspect of their lives and every significant occasion, that nothing will ever fill the permanent void left by Henry's death. His completely dignified, composed, and honourable father spoke out with such decorum, so respectful and noble, yet honest about what happened. Let's hear from the man himself.
The jury confirmed what we've always known. Henry's life was taken from him unlawfully, violently, and without justification. Henry was 18 years old. He was kind, ambitious, loved and full of promise. He had his whole life ahead of him, a degree to finish, places to see, and a future to build. That future was stolen from him, and no verdict or sentence will ever give it back. Henry did nothing wrong. He was one of the kindest, friendliest, and most inclusive people you could ever hope to meet. He was amazing in every way. On the 3rd of December last year, Henry was walking home from a night out with his university football teammates when he encountered Vickrum Digwa, a man openly carrying a large knife on the streets of Britain. That knife was used to take Henry's life. He should have been safe walking home. Instead, he became another young life lost to the brutal reality of knife crime in this country. Henry had been stabbed multiple times, and as his chest filled with blood, he tried to escape. He was chased, abused, and filmed by Vickrum Digwa and others. When police arrived, Henry was lying on the floor, barely able to sit up, and plainly in severe medical distress. With his final words, he told officers that he could not breathe. He told them he had been stabbed. In fact, Henry told officers that he could not breathe 9 times. He told them he had been stabbed 4 times. The response from one officer was, "I don't think you have, mate." The police were told by our son himself and by a member of the public who called 999 that they heard someone shout that they had been stabbed. But the police did not believe them. Henry was pulled across the gravel, his hands forced behind his back, and he was placed in handcuffs. Instead of being treated as a dying victim, police formally arrested Henry for assault and read him his rights. That was the last thing he heard. Henry did not die with dignity. He did not die with the care he deserved. He lost consciousness before anyone believed him. Let me be absolutely clear. We hold Vickrum Digwa solely and 100% responsible for the brutal murder of our son. But Henry should not have died on the streets of Southampton in police custody. The way he was treated was inhumane and degrading. His murder, however, was afforded decency. He was believed. He was not handcuffed when arrested. He was not handcuffed when transported to the police station. As far as we understand, he was never handcuffed at all. And, as Vickrum Digwa himself told the court, whilst under arrest for Henry's murder, police even took him to the kitchen so he could choose his food. The contrast is unbearable. We believe the officers involved remain on duty, although we understand some may have since resigned. One was allowed to leave the force before she had given an account to the Independent Office of Police Conduct of what happened that evening. Our family should not have to fight for the truth anymore. Despite the shocking actions of the police on that fatal night, the murder investigation was very different. We would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Senior Investigating Officer, the Serious Crime Team. We would also like to thank our incredible family liaison officers for their diligence, professionalism and compassion throughout this investigation. We would also like to thank the CPS, as well as Nick Lobenberg, KC and Neil King, for their outstanding advocacy skills in prosecuting this case. In our darkest period of our lives, knowing that people were fighting tirelessly for Henry gave us strength. They secured justice for our son, and for that, our family will be forever grateful. For us, there is no closure. There is no moment where the pain stops. There is no moment where the Henry-shaped hole in our family is filled. We will carry this grief every single day for the rest of our lives. But today matters. Today, Henry was believed. The truth has been recognized. Today, justice, in the eyes of the law, has been served. But justice alone is not enough. We want to use Henry's heartbreaking story to make change for the better. We do not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred, or tension. We want his story to make our streets safer for everyone. That is why we are calling on the government to treat knife crime as the national emergency that it is. We need real solutions. We need investment in prevention, need stronger action on the sale, the ownership and carrying of all knives. And as this case so painfully demonstrates, we need common sense applied to our laws. This doesn't mean knee-jerk reactions. This doesn't mean going to extremes. It just means a common sense approach to law and order. This is not a case about Sikhism. This is not a case about racism. This is a case about murder. People should not be able to walk openly through the streets of Britain carrying a 21-centimetre blade. As a family, we will not let this go. No other family should experience the heartbreak and horror of losing a child to knife crime. Finally, I want Henry to know, wherever he is, we are so proud of him and we love him beyond words. Thank you.
Utterly dignified. Major respect for the way he held himself and how well he managed to read out that heartbreaking statement. I have no idea how he did that, but what a guy. He gave so much respect and honour to his son's name, no doubt making him incredibly proud. Just amazing. Well done, sir. Henry's mother, standing on the end in white, seems to have a slight smirk at times, but this is her reaction to what is read out, evidently trying her very best to hold in her utter rage at the complete injustice and terrible treatment of her innocent son. In between is Henry's heartbroken sister, all there to support one another through the worst times of their lives. Henry's mother described the profound and enduring impact of his death upon the whole family, the devastating moment she was informed of his death, and the anguish of informing Henry's grandparents, the continued grief suffered by the family, and how his sister not only lost her brother, but her best friend. She explained how the profound and lasting effect of his loss is something they will carry for the rest of their lives. Henry's sister described their relationship as one of exceptional closeness, bless her, in which her brother was not only her sibling, but her closest companion and a central part to her daily life. His death, in her words, has caused her world to fall apart. How her home, once a place of comfort, is now just a constant reminder of his absence. Also, how the traumatic event has affected her ability to work due to grief and intrusive thoughts about the circumstances of her brother's death. Wow, that really is just so sad. Sorry about the tears are crying right now. It's just so heartbreaking to hear, as they all exist in a world without their beloved Henry. After family witnessed the traumatic bodycam, they fought to have it released to the public. And amazingly, it was. Or a small part of it was, at least. But the way the innocent, white, injured male was treated in comparison to his killer has unsurprisingly set off a chain reaction of complete and utter outrage across the UK, and focusing on Southampton police and the policing system as a whole. Plus where Vickrum's family resided too. Protests began almost immediately. American billionaire Elon Musk called the police officers disgusting and demanded they be fired. He also offered to fund a wrongful death lawsuit and a private prosecution against those officers. But apparently, you can resign without even being investigated. Who knew, hey? What a joke. Now, I'm not saying I'm a fan of him or his exact choice of words here as such, but Nigel Farage also spoke out on the matter. Let's take a look at what he had to say then, a lot of which I certainly do agree with.
It's a moment to take a long, hard look at ourselves as a country and what we've become. The murder of 18-year-old student Henry Nowak was bad enough of itself, but compounded in the most extraordinary way by the behaviour of the police officers. Just think of it, an 18-year-old lad, a student, been out with some friends for the evening, on the way home, and victim of a sustained attack. Stabbed several times, chased down the street. Stabbed seriously 5 times. And what happens? Well, the assailant's brother rings the police to say, we've just been racially attacked and abused by a white guy. The sirens blare, they arrive. Young Henry must have thought that at last help was at hand, but far, far from it. The police act from the beginning to the end, and the end when he dies, lying on a pavement, having been stabbed in handcuffs. The last thing he heard on this earth was him being read his rights by the police. He was actually treated in a way that meant an accusation of a racial slur was treated more seriously than an act of murder. What does he say? I can't breathe. Familiar words? Remember career criminal George Floyd, who died in appalling circumstances in Midwest America a few years ago. Remember the reaction to that and the way the police behaved. Within a few days, Keir Starmer was taking the knee. Black Lives Matter exploded all over the country. Churchill's statue was defaced. The cenotaph was vandalised. We're living in a two-tier culture in this country where the rights and privileges of white people matter less than those of ethnic minorities. Now, what has happened over the last few decades is, without anybody being asked, without anybody ever voting for it, we've been subjected to mass immigration on a scale that is truly unbelievable. At least 10 million new people have come to Britain in the last 20 years. And let's be clear, many of them are great people who work hard, have integrated and made their lives here. But far too many that have come have refused to integrate, are leading parallel lives and leaving many of our cities almost culturally unrecognisable from what they've always been. But to stop any criticism of this, we brought in hate speech laws. We brought in a DEI agenda. We've brought in what is called positive discrimination in favour of ethnic minorities over those of white people whose families have lived in Britain in many cases for centuries. That is the mess that we've got into. And that is why, in some ways, what happened, and despite the appalling behaviour of those police officers, but in some ways, what happened on that night in Southampton perhaps shouldn't be a surprise in two-tier Britain. But think of this. Much as we may condemn the 2 police officers involved here, think of this. The biggest fear a police officer now has going about his or her duty on the street is the fear of being reported for having acted in a way that was racially biased. That fear, now greater than dealing with a dying man living on the ground. Henry's family have responded to this in just the most extraordinarily dignified way. But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage. This is wrong. All the values and standards of living in a free country where everybody is judged equally before the law have been trashed and thrown away. Even through to sentencing. The sentence given was actually lower than the recommended minimum for a sustained, aggressive, murderous assault. But the most important thing that needs to change, that has to change, if our society is not to be ripped apart, where communities start to distrust each other and deeply distrust the police and all the other institutions of this country, is we need a change in culture. Enough of anti-white prejudice. A promotion of the idea that white lives matter just as much as black lives. An end to DEI and positive discrimination, but a country that treats everybody equally and fairly before the law. This is serious. This is urgent. I fear for where our society would be in a few short years if we don't grip this and do it very, very quickly. I want to send my sincerest condolences, the country's sincerest condolences to Henry's family. I hope this is the last time a British police force operates in this way. But the fish rots from the head down. It is up to government and police chiefs to change this culture and to start that process today. Thank you.
Cold rage. Now that's a bold statement. He isn't wrong though. It is the biggest fear in our country to be called out as racist, especially if you're in the police. And it's ridiculous. And certainly wrong. Clearly even affecting the way they do their jobs and procedures. And no restriction on the size of these blades is mad. I'm sorry, I understand it is a part of the Sikh religion, but when is enough enough? We must fight against all knife crime, and if it's illegal for a British citizen to carry a knife, shouldn't it be illegal full stop? Should this important rule not follow for all who choose to live in our country? That is the question.
Sikhs have a religious exemption from weapons carrying laws to allow followers of the faith to carry the kirpan. The College of Policing defines a kirpan as a dagger-type blade. In Britain, there's no restriction on its size.
Robert Jenrick of Reform UK raised the incident in the House of Commons. He called it a scandal and asked what the Home Secretary was doing to investigate police conduct and requested a debate on two-tier policing. Let's also take a look at Keir Starmer versus Nigel Farage in the House of Commons.
Well, the case dominated Prime Minister's questions, with Sir Keir saying the call for rage by the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage in response to the death of Henry was unforgivable. Let's hear some of that exchange in the House of Commons.
Following the horrendous circumstances of Henry Nowak's death, can I urge the Prime Minister to consider this? It is now clear to growing millions in this country that we're living under two-tier policing. The instructions that are given to police officers from police bosses are clear and written down in ink. It says you must treat different ethnic groups in different ways. Apart from the upset and the anger at the circumstances of his death, the anger that you saw spilling out in Southampton last night, which is in danger of getting considerably worse if the public lose trust in being treated fairly by the police. Can he take some action, end this divisive practice of two-tier policing and make sure that all British citizens are treated the same?
Mr. Speaker, I don't believe there's two-tier policing in this country. I'm really shocked that he pretends to have respect for Henry's family and then acts in this way. They are a grieving family.
Mr. Blash, please, it's a very important question. I want to hear the Prime Minister. If you want to carry on, go outside, please, Prime Minister.
The grieving family have asked us not to respond in the way that the Leader of Reform has responded. They've asked us not to. They have lost their son in the most appalling circumstance. They make a simple plea of us as human beings to please not exploit that. That is their plea to us. We all need to reflect on those words of Henry's father. My response, and the response of others to be fair, has been focused on the lessons to be learned so we can deliver justice. His response has been to appeal for rage. Rage. That's his response to a father who's lost his son and asked for that not to happen. Exploiting this tragedy to create grievance and division would be wrong in any circumstances, but to do it when the family are expressly saying, please don't, is unforgivable. It shows exactly who he is.
Ooh, pretty tense there. People agreeing on either side. Following the sentencing, a local Gurdwara, a place of worship for Sikhs, spoke out, saying it had banned Vickrum Digwa long ago for his conduct. Shame that message didn't reach the rest of the public. You know, it's also interesting how people like Keir Starmer remained very quiet at first on this one. He posted about the football and the Premier League. He also wished happy Eid or Eid al-Adha with these words: "I send my warmest wishes to all those celebrating across the UK and around the world. At this special time, I wish you and your loved ones peace, joy and good health." He even mentions how the Tories waged an ideological war on the idea of social housing. But when it came to the brutal murder and sentencing of Henry's killer, pretty silent for a while over there. Birds tweeting kind of thing. As I said earlier, I wonder just how long it will take before walls are painted with Henry's face and monuments set up, and Keir Starmer and the police take the knee. I have seen video after video of protests where they are saying to the police, "Kneel for Henry," or, "Come on man, be that one guy, the first one to do it and make that stance," asking the whole line of police to kneel, and not a single one of them has, not that I've seen. And I genuinely think they are told at the beginning of the shift, take the knee and you're sacked. Because why would they not? We did it for George Floyd in America. Our police all took the knee for him. Keir Starmer took the knee for him. But Henry Nowak? No. What's that all about? But I actually believe that this will happen. Our people have well and truly had enough, evident by the serious and quite violent protests that are now taking place in the streets of the UK.
Look at you, you bunch of fucking cunts. Look at you. Are you racist? Are you racist? Are you racist? Are you racist? Everyone else is answering. Answer.
You're Henry safe, don't
No,
you?
you're being thrown at us, Amanda. Yeah, but you haven't. Nobody's safe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Racist police off our streets. Racist police off our streets.
Which is clear to see in the huge gathering of protesters, where Tommy Robinson even joined in, or what's his real name? As a line of officers stood in a barricade at Southampton police station, tensions quickly rose, emotions were high, rage and anger took over many as scenes of violence unfolded. I believe it began as a pretty peaceful protest, where multiple people made speeches like Tommy Robinson. But as the day drew on and people were drinking more beers, and they started to head towards Belmont Road where the attack happened and the killer's family lived, that is when the violence really started to up. We also have footage from earlier that day where we even see a vicar join in and have his say on the matter. Let's take a look at that. And when I say join in, I mean with the peaceful protest, not the violence. Just imagining a vicar drinking a beer and throwing a brick and a flaming wheelie bin.
Hi, I'm here at Southampton Central Police Station. As you can see, I think about 1,000 people here now outside Southampton Police Station. Already quite high and tension between police officers and protesters here. Of course, the public are outraged after the release of that bodycam footage showing Henry Nowak in his final moments. Now protesters are gathering. There is a strong police presence. They are covering a perimeter around this protest here. We've just had that minute silence, as you said. I'm going to try and speak to some people now to see why they've come down here today. Chris, hello. Thank you for coming on. What's made you come down and show support today?
I think for me, as a reverend, I think it's important that we stand with the people and stand up for truth and righteousness and justice. And what we're getting very tired of seeing in our nation is basically our children being sacrificed on the altars of multiculturalism and political correctness. And this is why I'm here today. People are tired, they're grieved, they're fed up. And when we saw the body cam footage, it only really highlighted what we already suspected, is that we have a political system that's so indoctrinated, even our police, that when they, with their natural eyes, see a man that's clearly in a state of distress, that all they saw was that he was a racist. And we've got to get past this. We need to get past this whole kind of hysteria over the flag-waving, misogynistic, racist, bigot white guy, which seems to be drummed into our political system, our education system, and sadly in our constabulary. And that's why people are here today, and that's why I'm here. I want to see justice in our nation again, and practical policing.
Thank you very much. Many protesters here extremely angry. As I said before, tensions seem to be rising here between police and protesters. Police had formed a line at the stairs over there and protesters just pushed through there, going up the stairs towards the police station. As I said, I think there's probably about 1,000 people here now at the protest, people chanting "Save our kids." You can see lots of Union Jacks around. And just in general, people here saying that they're fighting for justice. You can just hear the sound of the applause here as people all stand together for Henry Nowak. Hampshire Police have said that one of the officers involved has now resigned. That's come in this afternoon.
Fair play for the vicar, turning up and speaking the truth there. This was at the very start, though, of the many protests which have unfolded on our streets of England since the release of that horrifying bodycam footage. And unsurprisingly, many of us Brits have just had enough. Unfortunately, tensions, anger and rage at how this country is being run has been building up and building up for such a long time. That Henry's death and his subsequent treatment by police in his dying moments has just made the whole situation explode. In the days since then, we have had mass riots in the streets and violent, aggressive protests, going totally against the wishes of Henry's family. Sadly, though, it's gone past such a point that the outrage is not just for Henry Nowak, but all British citizens who have felt unheard, not believed, or treated totally different compared to the ethnic minorities here. The respect for Henry's family's wishes have not been abided by. But I think it's because of the much bigger picture and all other injustices that have occurred in Britain over the decades and of recent times. All starting from the top, the higher ups, government, and Keir Starmer, etc. How it's said that the police are informed and even trained to treat ethnic minorities differently compared to white people. It's even said that Keir wants to fine anyone here in England £2,500 just for flying a flag of our own country, on our own properties. That's just madness and pure power hungry. I don't fly a flag outside of my house, but come on, this is the country we live in, why can you not? We have flags everywhere, Palestine flags, gay pride flags, fuck-nose flags, you know. But our own? Oh no, no. £2.5 grand, pal. We've now got mass riot, street brawls, police being attacked with bricks, fireballs, people's fucking wheelie bins, anything those protesters can get their hands on, as it seems. As many are filmed drinking beer and then launching the cans. The respect and honour in Henry's name seems to have disappeared amongst the pure rage. We even saw some Polish nationals come down and give their say to the police. Not that the police probably understood what they were saying, but you could feel it. Now, people chanting, "I can't breathe," or "I've been stabbed," I get that. But the beer sluggers and people who seem to have turned out just to cause complete chaos and mass destruction of our streets, homes, public places and people's property, what will this help?
Watch out, boys! Watch out, boys! Watch out, boys! It's red! You got nothing coming, mate! Fucking give up!
Now, I genuinely feel sorry for these officers because I truly believe that many or most people would have dealt with Henry's situation totally differently. Blaming them all for his death as a collective seems pretty over the top and uncalled for, but I'm so split on this one, as I genuinely understand the complete outrage. I just feel many of the police would have also been personally outraged too, and disagree with how it all went down. But as soon as they put that uniform on, they're guilty too. I did see one officer actually reply to a protester, and he said, "I'm disgusted too. It's sickening," or something like that. And he said, "But I'm just here to do my job and protect the public." The point is, the protesters see them all standing there. They don't speak barely. It feels they are against the British public, standing together, not just physically, but in all ways. That's how many will view it. Plus, even refusing to kneel for Henry. I do feel really sorry though for all who will be affected by the criminal damage, feeling scared in their own homes and streets, and poor 80-year-old Doris just going to put her rubbish out to find she has no fucking bins. "Oh yeah, sorry, we threw them all at the police." And then a rainstorm came and just washed them all. They've all fucked off. Good luck with that, Doris. You know what I mean? This kind of violent behaviour will affect the people who live there far more than it will make any difference in changes in the law, for example. And when does a peaceful protest turn into all-out rioting? I certainly agree, though, that the officers involved, particularly the useless, careless, incompetent and unempathetic male officer, should certainly face legal charges for both their conduct and complete incompetency to do their jobs and keep our public safe. Believe the guy who's saying he's being stabbed and can't breathe for one, for fuck's sake. To hear of them resigning though, I'm not one bit surprised. This always happens here. Police officers who get caught out like this, instead of facing criminal charges as they should do, like all of us, time after time they are just allowed to resign instead, and even receive full pensions. It's an utter disgrace. I watched a clip of Tommy Robinson speaking up at the protest, and again, like Farage, I may not be a fan or dislike him. I choose not to choose on both of them. But I quite agree with nearly all that he said.
Well done for not remaining silent. Well done for coming out. I've spoke about this for 20 years. The police will turn up, they jump on the white kids. Every time, I've seen it my whole life. They jump on the white kids. What the whole world has now seen in Henry's video is what we all know anyway. It's a different treatment for white people compared to non-whites. And we've seen this spread through every single institution in our country. I can't breathe. The crying, the pleading. Do you know what's insane right now? Is you see that scumbag's brother who should be charged for perverting the course of justice. A message to anyone who wants to claim representative communities, get that fucking family out of Southampton.
Yes, get them off!
The fact that his family might go shopping in this city next week and walk past that scumbag's brother who facilitated and accommodated the murder of Henry. The fact he's walking the streets is insane.
Get him gone! Get them gone! Get them gone!
He's walking these streets this morning. That's the brother.
Get them out! Get them out!
When people talk about justice, unless the police officers are prosecuted, which must happen. I heard what the arresting officers just resigned. We don't want him to resign.
Disgusting.
We want him imprisoned.
Easy route out. Fucking easy route out.
Not one single police officer was prosecuted for allowing the rape of a generation of our daughters. Not one. None of them have faced prosecution. They've all left with their fucking pensions. Every one of them have left with their pensions. Exactly the same as this. He'll resign with full bloody pension. It's not good enough. We know, every one of you watching this know, if Henry wasn't white, he wouldn't have been handcuffed. So although I heard someone say this isn't about race, this is about race.
Yes, it is.
He was murdered because he was white. Yeah. He was handcuffed. Do you know the murderer? He didn't get handcuffed. Even after they found out he'd stabbed him 5 times, he still didn't get fucking handcuffed. He wasn't handcuffed in the police car. He wasn't handcuffed at the police station. They took him in the police station to choose what bloody meal he wanted. That is the executive treatment given to non-whites. The white boy who done nothing was handcuffed. The murderer in possession of a knife who stabbed someone 5 times wasn't even handcuffed. It's there for the entire world to see. This isn't just about Henry. Henry could have been your son. Henry could be your son. This has gone on for so fucking long in every town and city across our country, where as white people we're treated as second-rate citizens by our own government, by our own police force. This is indoctrination into the police force. White privilege. White privilege. Does Henry fucking Nowak look like he had white privilege on the floor?
So I didn't play the whole clip there, but you can go and watch that on his YouTube at Tommy Robinson. I think getting the family out of Southampton is a fine idea. First of all, for their own safety. I wouldn't feel safe if I was Vickrum's brother, for example. And imagine how Henry's family would feel to cross any of them on the street or just in a shop. It is a complete disgrace how Henry Nowak was treated in total comparison to the killer, even after they knew Henry had died. Crazy. Like royalty. No wonder the rest of the world is laughing at us, hey? 'Cause it's a goddamn joke. And they could just bump into these people in the street or at the local co-op.
They're literally just casually like on their. Look, you can see like the TV's just on, so they're obviously still
home. One person in particular that I have really enjoyed watching covering this horrific case is GB News presenter Patrick Christie's. Or Christie's, sorry, I'm not sure how you say your name, dude. Now, many people have covered this story, all kinds of news outlets and channels, but I have been drawn to any that Patrick has done. He's so honest, not afraid to say what he thinks and feels, and, to be honest, how many of us here in Britain feel. He speaks his mind, calls people in power out, and points out just how ridiculous this country and how it is run as a whole really is. I would highly recommend heading to GB News on YouTube and watching any of his intense debates with people. Or just him reporting on this tragic crime and Henry's treatment. I think he's a legend for not being at all afraid. I might throw a few clips of him in here, but this episode is so long now.
People tried to burn cities to the ground in the wake of George Floyd's death. It prompted the whole Black Lives Matter movement. His death sparked protests right here in Britain.
Black Lives Matter! All Black Lives Matter!
Wait, take a new
Come on! Yes, my man! Yes, man! Yes, my man!
Police officers literally taking the knee outside Downing Street to the Black Lives Matter crowd. Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner took the knee in solidarity because of George Floyd. So far, we have had absolutely no remarks from Keir Starmer about Henry Nowak, a young boy who drowned in his own blood as British police officers handcuffed him because they thought that the big crime that had been committed that day was that he'd been racist, which was a lie. Silence from the Prime Minister. Silence from pretty much all the politicians who stood up for BLM. The PM tweeted about a mosque attack in San Diego, California. Nothing about a white British lad left to bleed to death as police watched on. The local MP where the attack took place has proudly posted about attending BLM events. Today, it was revealed that Henry Nowak's family have called for the return of common sense policing. Now, I want to make something very clear. The vast majority of police officers are incredible, they're brave, they're dedicated, they're fearless, they do a really tough job on not huge money, and they're not allowed to go on strike, unlike the bloody train drivers. But, unfortunately, the management of the police has been infected with a woke mind virus that is putting the public at risk. Now, I have uncovered this clip. This is real. This is not a comedy show.
Every lesson will link back to cultural diversity. We'll do unconscious bias on every single topic we do. So whether it's drink driving or whether it's stop and search, it's implemented throughout the whole course.
The more effective you are at engaging with the community, the better policing is. They'll come to you with more information, they'll trust you more, they'll tell you more, and you can engage on them at a level instead of being a uniform and sort of being confrontational with them.
This is one of the legacies of the Macpherson Report and its 70 recommendations on how to overcome institutional racism. The government at the time promised to listen.
Oh, stop. So they say they put critical race theory at the heart of everything they do. That's the most important thing. They can't even march in unison. Just look at this again.
The Macpherson Report and its 70 recommendations on how to overcome
I mean, come on! How pathetic is that? Have a look at this. You know what? I don't want to see police officers in uniform wiggling their hips like a bearded Shakira. If you're going to do a Kylie Minogue tribute act, take the uniform off. It's embarrassing. Great. It's pathetic, isn't it? We don't want a weak police service. We want a police force. Then we've got this.
We've got matters on. She's getting arrested. She's getting arrested. Why are you doing? Units coming. Don't worry. She hasn't done anything. She's autistic. I don't care. She's autistic. I know you're okay. I'm telling you, I've got units coming. She's going to be arrested tonight.
A lesbian police officer arresting an autistic teenager because she said that she looked like her lesbian grandma. What are we playing out here? I'm so angry. Oh gosh, someone hurt my feelings. They said I look like their lesbian grandma. I've got protected rights. I'm going to arrest an autistic teenager. What are we doing? Jog on. And then, of course, we've got this.
What did it need to come to?
Tell us why you escalated it to this level, because I don't understand. I posted something that he posted, you come to arrest me, you don't arrest him. Why has it come to this? Why am I in cuffs? Because there's something he shared, then I shared.
Because someone has been caused, obviously, anxiety based upon your social media page.
Someone got caused anxiety because of something that was posted online. Going and nicking someone in their own home for a social media post. We're told we need more common sense policing. Talking of common sense, you want your police officers to be fit and healthy, don't you? That's basic common sense. Well, police forces have lowered their fitness requirements. Now, apparently, you now only need to be able to jog for around 3 minutes and 8 seconds in order to be a police officer. That is this level of fitness. That's it. That's how fit our police officers have to be. They have to maintain that pace for 3 minutes, 8 seconds. Are we having a laugh here or what? Hampshire Police, led by this man, Alexis Boone, missed several key chances to stop him. There are at least 2 occasions where they appear to have taken no action. Why not? And even after they caught him, they didn't even bother to search him, and they gave him preferential treatment. And then they tried to influence the reporting and the public mood in favour of Digwa and against Henry Nowak. Can anybody tell me how the head of Hampshire Police still has a job?
But seriously, go check his work out for GB News. I really appreciate his confronting, very honest opinions and reporting style. You can see and feel his rage, anger and total frustration on the entire matter. It's from the heart. He means what he says and is clearly personally outraged for Henry and all of his loved ones. As the protests and riots continue on the streets of England, it is a time of unrest, complete lack of trusting in our police force, and pure hatred for our government. Many officers have already been seriously injured as it goes on, and at least one dog. Not the dogs, man. They didn't even choose to do that job. Poor doggy is dragged into all of this shit. When will it end? Will anything ever change in the way our country is being run? Will those officers ever be held accountable? Or even the higher-ups demanding the way they treat white people compared to ethnic minorities? Will a ban on all knives, including religious ones, come into place? What will happen next? And will Vickrum's mother be deported? So many questions, so much anger boiling through our country. The protesters even spread out towards the Digwa family home. Will street justice take place? At this point, it really wouldn't surprise me. We've all been waiting for something to demand an intense reaction such as this, what we're seeing now. That we as the British public feel forced to speak out, and Henry Nowak's death and the horrendous bodycam footage highlighted how deep this issue goes, poisoning how police are instructed to do their jobs. And let me just mention this. Henry died back in December of 2025, yet it has taken until now and the release of that bodycam pushed by Henry's family for total outrage to occur. His story and treatment by the police has been held back, glossed over, almost hidden from the public, until Henry's own family fought for the footage to be released. That's how it always goes. Imagine what we don't hear about. The extent of the cover-ups. There is no trust anymore. And this is why our streets have been turned into such chaos. It is not a place many of us want to live in anymore. But it's not so easy to just pick up your life and move abroad. That is unless you want to enter the UK. Then it's a mad trip. Even rapists from other countries who have come over here, abused our children, actually get given money when deported. Now how fucking mad is that? They even get paid after committing such horrors to our children. You just cannot make it up. Many of us hold our heads in shame and full embarrassment to even be called British anymore. It's a sad world, and stuff like this makes me actually thankful that I cannot have my own children, as I wouldn't want them to be a part of this fucked up world as a whole. I feel those officers' days could even be numbered now. People want justice, and I certainly believe that Vickrum Digwa's life is at stake every second of every day. All prisoners will be aware of what happened and who he is, and he will never be safe here in England again. I would be totally content to hear he had been attacked and left to die in prison, and just think of the credit and rep that that person would receive. Updates. Firstly, I was actually buzzing as reports of Vickrum being attacked with sugar water began to spread on social media. And this hilarious image. I love a good piss take. Oh man, do I wish that were true. But unfortunately, this does seem to be fake news, as Vickrum is being held in the safety of solitary confinement, away from any other prisoners, still being protected because of the vast amounts of death threats. Unsurprisingly. Oh, but it's only a matter of time, guys. It said the evil, cowardly killer is being held at HMP Winchester in Hampshire, an already overcrowded prison with drug and violence issues, but still managing to keep this scum safe in solitary confinement. He doesn't deserve any protection. Who protected Henry that night? Certainly not the police. I found a post that someone made about Vickrum Digwa, someone who knew him from his school days, and what it says, if true, clearly shows that this man has had major anger issues all of his life, and was a total liability walking around with deadly weapons. If you want to read it, please pause the video, as I'm not reading all of that, as well as everything else I've read so far. Especially as I have no way of actually proving what is written to be true. It's quite hard to read, so I might put a separate picture next to it where it's a bit clearer on Facebook.
Vickrum Digwa selecting his swords at a Sikh martial arts event in East London. The video shared with Sky News was taken 2.5 years before Digwa went on to kill teenager Henry Nowak. A death which the Sikh community believe might have been prevented, given they'd already raised concerns about him to police.
On the 7th of June, a petition to charge the officer who handcuffed Henry received 161,413 signatures. So it's no doubt much higher by the time you are viewing this episode. That is a lot of signatures. What are your views on this? Do you believe the officer, or any in particular, should face charges? for what happened to Henry that night. Do you agree with me in how they treated Henry in his dying moments may have even sped up the process of his death? What are your thoughts on this entire case and episode as a whole? I know it was a long one, you guys, and I majorly appreciate you for sticking around till the end. You legends. Did you like this more in-depth style of documentary? I've seen just so many intense and heartbreaking bodycam videos, but this one really was excruciating to watch, knowing how desperate he was in those moments, even saying please, as he's now handcuffed and treated as a criminal himself. All Henry wanted and intended to do that night was enjoy a few cold beers and a catch-up with his football team, and return home to his accommodation safely. Just any old night. He didn't go out to cause trouble, and at the end he just simply wanted his bed. Sadly, this low-life scum of the earth chose to use his sacred dagger for pure evil that night, all because he was called a bad man. How pathetic. And I bet the way it was said was not, "Are you a bad man?" I bet it was, "Oh, you think you're a bad man?" You know, it's just the way they talk in the UK. So he wasn't even saying he was a bad man. He was just saying, "Do you think you're a bad man?" As in a hard man. If that makes sense. Plus, Vickrum's choice to use this dagger to commit bloody murder changed it from being considered as a sacred weapon into an unlawful offensive weapon. Even the kirpan. Sikhs themselves believe that misusing the kirpan or other knives violates the core principles of their faith, resulting in both severe consequences, both spiritually and in the justice system. Sorry, that made me laugh. 21 years. That's not fucking justice. That bit was from Google, and I left it in there, but how hilarious. Severe consequences, my ass. So unless it's the British justice system, then hey, jokers. Well, it's said he has now brought upon himself bad karma through his religion and beliefs, and the Sikh community and leadership strongly condemn any acts of violence committed by individuals carrying ceremonial blades. So basically, instead of reaching the highest state of spiritual enlightenment and the realm of truth, the aim for all Sikhs after death, in complete contrast, he shall rot, burning away in the depths of pure hell. Hopefully after an utter, torturous, undignified and totally humiliating, painful death behind bars. It's simply a matter of time. It really is. Got my fingers crossed too. Henry Nowak was just 18 years old when his life and future was so brutally cut short, in a horrendous and inhumane manner, by both the killer himself and our own police force. He could have gone on to achieve just so much. His promising future was evident to see by all around him, his family so proud of the man he was becoming, broken beyond words without their beloved Henry. I've seen some beautiful signs and marks of respect to Henry by war veterans. When I saw kneeling, he was a black male war veteran.
Here we go, he's warming up. Oh. Oh, yeah.
Well done, Terry.
Go on, Terry. Go on, Terry.
And then in Australia, many took the knee in Henry's name. A huge gathering formed in Perth, Australia, to honour him. Many proudly displaying the British flag. So all the way across the complete other side of the world, people are showing more respect to a murdered British-Polish 18-year-old than any of our government, people in power, or even the police force have done. Just one simple body movement, a kneel, which they were all more than happy and proud to do back in 2020 for American George Floyd. But oh no, not for one of our own. Unforgivable, if you ask me. I defo think that the police have been instructed to not kneel. I really do, as I also believe that many of them are utterly disgusted by their fellow officers' conduct. But they just want to keep their jobs. Starmer wanting to charge people $2.5 grand for flying their own flag and our own country in our own properties just says it all. And you can't be patriotic anymore. You just called, what do they call them, gammons or something. Flag painting gammon heads or something like that I've seen. Anyway, you have finally got to the end of this episode. I really, really appreciate you all. Thank you all for being here, commenting, liking and subscribing to my channel. I really do appreciate you all. Please leave any comments about this episode, the style and all of the questions I've raised in the comment section. But please remain respectful, guys, to protect my channel. Remember, I don't profit from anything. This is all purely just a passion of mine, and I get heartbroken when my videos are taken down. May Henry Nowak rest in heaven for eternity, until his loved ones get to hold him again. Playing football in the sky until that moment, watching over them all. Back soon for more. Take care, everyone. Random Jen.